This is a how-to on manually checking or updating the Thunderbolt firmware on a applicable ThinkPad. I'm using a ThinkPad T470. On here is the relevant page from Lenovo. And if your ThinkPad is one of these, then you may want to manually check which firmware version is installed. So for my model, T470 running Windows 10, would download and run this firmware update. Now, for the purpose of just checking the firmware version, so it will extract to this folder, drivers, Windows, Thunderbolt firmware. You would navigate to this detect folder, and then you would run a command prompt as admin. Copy this address, type cd space, right click. Now you're in that folder, and then you're going to run detect 2008.executable. It will run a number of these checks and then report the firmware version and the software version. And according to the table, we want a software and firmware version at least as high as those indicated for each model. So my firmware version is 21.03. It's greater than 20, so my ThinkPad is considered patched. Driver version should be equal to or greater than 17.4.78.21. Mine is higher, so I'm in the clear. Now, a common issue I was encountering when attempting to update my firmware was that the flash software would fail at the checking the PM device stage. It would tell me that my PM device was wrong, despite being the most up-to-date version. And I found that to resolve this issue, I could go to catalog.update.microsoft.com and search Lenovo PM device. Scroll down and find an older version, particularly 1.67.17.55. Download and then force install this driver. Use half disk. So I'd use 7-zip and extract the contents of the driver, copy the address, then install it. Now we can see it is the desired version of the PM device driver, and with this driver installed, I was then successful to run the firmware flash executable and satisfy the PM device check. Now, I've not been able to replicate this issue on this computer now that the firmware update is applied, or has already been applied. Regardless, perhaps this was an issue I encountered, and this was a solution to resolve that issue. So if by chance you run into it, hopefully this will help.